You know, sometimes silence in our life doesn't come from peace, it comes from distance. You look around and realize the people you once laughed with are no longer there. The phone that once never stopped ringing now lies quiet. And you start to wonder, did I do something wrong? Why don't I have many friends anymore? But my dear friends, sometimes the lack of friends doesn't mean you're losing people. It means you're finding yourself. Sometimes, when you're sitting alone and scrolling through your phone with no one texting you, it feels painful. You start to question yourself. Why is no one checking on me? But what if that silence is not rejection, but redirection? What if life is trying to pull you away from the noise so you can finally hear your own voice? You see, when you are surrounded by people all the time, you adapt, you mold yourself to fit in. You laugh when others laugh, you agree when others agree, and slowly, you start losing your individuality. You stop asking, what do I really think? And start asking, what will they think of me? That's why loneliness is not your enemy, it's your mirror. It's the space where you start seeing your real reflection. You begin to understand what makes you happy without validation, what calms your heart without applause. It's in that silence that you realize how many of your friendships were built on convenience, not connection. When the noise fades and you're left with yourself, something magical happens. Clarity. You start noticing how peaceful life feels without constant comparison, how light your heart feels when you're not trying to impress anyone. That's when you start learning emotional independence. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first, because we're taught that being alone means being unwanted. But the truth is, being alone often means you've stopped entertaining things that drain your energy. It means you've chosen quality over quantity, depth over display. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't rush to fill that space. Sit with it. Breathe through it, because this quiet phase, this lonely moment, is not punishment. It's preparation. Life isolates you not to hurt you, but to strengthen you. It takes you away from people so that you can reconnect with purpose. And when you come out of that classroom of loneliness, you'll walk differently, more confident, more peaceful, and more aligned with who you truly are. So remember, loneliness is not always a curse. It's the moment life teaches you the most important subject of all yourself. It's one of the hardest truths to accept, yet it's the one lesson life keeps repeating until we finally understand it. There comes a time when the people you once felt closest to, those who knew your stories, your laughter, your secrets, start to drift away. You don't fight, you don't argue, you just notice the distance growing quietly between you, like two boats slowly sailing in different directions. And at first, it hurts deeply. You replay moments in your mind, wondering what changed, what went wrong, or if it's somehow your fault. But the truth is, nothing went wrong. You grew. And growth, my friends, often means outgrowing. You see, not everyone is meant to walk with you forever. Some people enter your life to teach you lessons that only last for a season. They show you what love feels like, what betrayal tastes like, or what real friendship looks like. And then, when their part in your story is done, life gently moves them out of the scene. It's not cruelty, it's choreography. The universe is always rearranging your surroundings to match your soul's evolution. When you grow mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, your energy changes. You start craving peace more than excitement. You start valuing truth over flattery. And the people who once resonated with your old self may not understand this new version of you. Their conversations no longer nourish you. Their company no longer comforts you. And so, distance happens not because you stopped caring, but because your vibration no longer matches theirs. Losing people is painful because it feels like loss, but in reality, it's often liberation. Imagine carrying a backpack full of rocks. Each rock represents a person, a memory, a bond that you're desperately holding on to. The longer you carry it, the heavier it becomes. Then one day, life starts taking a few rocks away. It feels uncomfortable, even unfair, but slowly, you realize your back feels lighter, your steps become easier, and you can finally move forward freely. Growth demands space. And sometimes that space is created by absence. When someone walks away, don't chase them. Don't beg for their attention. Don't try to convince them to stay. Because if they truly belong to your future, life wouldn't let them leave your present. The right people don't need convincing. They stay because they want to, not because you ask them to. Think about trees. Every season, they lose leaves. It doesn't mean the tree is dying. It means it's preparing for a stronger bloom. The shedding is necessary for renewal. Similarly, losing people doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're transforming. You're shedding the version of you that needed approval, that feared being alone, that believed everyone's presence was permanent. And when the right season comes, you'll find that life brings new souls into your journey. People who understand your silence, respect your growth, and love you for who you've become, never who you were. So don't mourn every goodbye as an ending. Some goodbyes are blessings dressed in pain. Losing people is not the destruction of your story. It's simply a sign that your story is evolving. Because as you rise higher, the air gets thinner and fewer people can breathe. Where you're going, it's one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. That if we have fewer people around, if the phone doesn't buzz as much, if the invites stop coming, somehow it means we're not worthy of love. But let me tell you something from the deepest corner of experience. The number of people around you has nothing to do with the value within you. There are moments in life when your circle shrinks and you start feeling invisible. You scroll through pictures of people laughing together and a quiet ache forms in your chest. Why am I not part of that anymore? But that ache isn't a sign of unworthiness. It's a sign of awakening. Because sometimes your soul starts demanding authenticity, and that naturally filters out anyone who was only attached to your surface, not your depth. People often love the version of you that entertains them, agrees with them, or fits into their comfort zone. But the moment you start growing, setting boundaries, or choosing peace over drama, the crowd thins. Not because you're less lovable, but because you've stopped being available for superficial connections. You're no longer a constant, yes. You're no longer willing to bend just to belong. And that's not arrogance. That's self-respect. When you start healing, your energy changes. You stop chasing attention and start craving alignment. You begin to enjoy your own company more than forced conversations. And that's when you realize maybe the reason your circle got smaller wasn't because something is wrong with you, but because something finally got right within you. Love isn't measured by how many people surround you. It's measured by how deeply you can love yourself when no one else is clapping. Because when you start giving yourself the validation you've been begging from others, the emptiness fades. You stop needing constant reassurance, and your own reflection starts becoming your biggest comfort. Think about this. When the light in a room grows brighter, not everyone can handle it. Some will squint, some will walk away, and only a few will stay and adjust. The same happens when your awareness, your self-worth, and your peace expand. You become too bright for certain energies. They don't leave because you're unlovable. They leave because your growth exposes their comfort zone. So, instead of asking, why don't I have many friends? Start asking, who am I becoming without them? Because often, the version of you that emerges in solitude is far more beautiful, grounded, and loving than the one who needed constant approval. And remember this, even the most extraordinary souls in history, the ones who inspired millions, often walked alone. Greatness has always been misunderstood at first. Depth has always been quiet. Light has always been lonely before it becomes radiant. So, if you feel like you have fewer friends, don't let that turn into self-doubt. You are not difficult to love. You are just difficult to fool. You are not unworthy. You are uncommon. You are not hard to be around. You are simply surrounded by those who cannot yet see the depth of your heart. One day, people look at you and realize how much warmth you carried even in your silence. How much kindness you offered, even when it wasn't returned. And they'll understand that the lack of friends never meant you were unlovable. It only meant you were learning to love yourself enough not to settle for half-hearted people. It takes most of us years to truly understand this. Because for a long time, we chase the feeling of being liked. We chase attention, validation, inclusion, that little spark we get when someone praises us or when we're surrounded by people who seem to admire us. But here's the truth. Popularity feeds your ego. Peace feeds your soul. And once you've tasted peace, you'll never trade it for applause again. You see, being liked by everyone is exhausting. You keep wearing different masks depending on who you're around. One for friends, one for work, one for social media. You spend so much time trying to maintain an image that pleases everyone that you forget what it's like to simply be yourself. And at the end of the day, when you're finally alone, you feel tired, not because you've done too much, but because you've been pretending too long. Peace, on the other hand, is simple. It's when you can sit quietly, with no noise, no crowd, no need to prove anything, and feel completely content. It's when your actions, your words, and your values are in harmony. You no longer perform for attention, you live for alignment. That's the difference between popularity and peace. One demands you to be seen, the other allows you to be real. So many people try to fill the emptiness inside them with attention. More likes, more followers, more people calling their name. But you can have thousands of people around you and still feel lonely inside. Because no matter how much noise surrounds you, if your heart is unsettled, you'll never feel fulfilled. Peace doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from the quiet choices you make every day. It comes when you stop explaining yourself to people who never wanted to understand you. It comes when you stop arguing to prove your worth. It comes when you finally accept that your value doesn't decrease just because someone fails to see it. Popularity asks, how many people like me? Peace asks, do I like the person I'm becoming? When you chase popularity, you'll bend your boundaries. You'll say yes when you want to say no. You'll laugh when something hurts you. You'll stay silent when something feels wrong, just to keep the peace outside while losing the peace within. But when you start valuing inner peace more than outer approval, you'll start living differently. You'll speak gently but truthfully. You'll walk away from gossip. You'll stop competing with others because your only competition will be with the version of you from yesterday. And something beautiful happens then. You start attracting the right people. People who love you for your energy, not your image. People who are drawn to your calm, not your chaos. You no longer have to perform friendship or fake happiness. You simply exist as yourself, and that's enough. Remember, popularity is temporary. Today's applause becomes tomorrow's silence. People forget, opinions change, trends fade. But peace stays. It's the calmness you carry into every storm, the clarity that keeps you grounded when the world becomes loud. Don't chase to be known, chase to be at ease. Don't aim to be admired, aim to be aligned. Because when you sleep peacefully at night, knowing you didn't betray your heart for attention, that's when you've truly succeeded. You might not be in every group. You might not be the most followed, the most noticed, or the most talked about. But if your heart feels light, your mind feels still, and your soul feels free, then you have something far greater than popularity. You have peace. And peace, my friend, is the rarest kind of success in a world obsessed with being seen. We live in a world where everyone is trying so hard to be noticed, to be chosen, to be wanted, to be loved. We chase friendships, relationships, opportunities, constantly trying to prove that we're worth someone's time and attention. But the more you chase, the faster they run. Because anything that's meant for you doesn't require you to beg for it. It recognizes you when you stand still. There's a deep kind of peace that comes when you stop running after people who keep walking away. It's the moment you realize that love, respect, and connection should never have to be hunted down. The right people, they don't make you question your place in their life. They don't make you feel like you're asking for too much. They meet you with the same energy you give, because for them, being in your life is not a favor, it's a choice they're grateful to make. But before that happens, life teaches you the hard way. You chase people who don't care. You overthink every text. You shrink yourself just to be tolerated. And one day, you wake up completely drained, not from the effort you gave, but from the realization that your love was never the problem. It was just given to the wrong place. That's when something shifts. You stop running. You stop explaining. You stop trying to make people see your worth. And in that stillness, something magical happens. Your energy changes. You move differently. You start walking with quiet confidence instead of anxious need. And suddenly, the people who once overlooked you begin to notice your absence. Because peace is magnetic. Self-respect is attractive. And detachment, it glows. When you stop chasing, you begin attracting. Because what you chase runs away from you. But what you align with flows to you. You start seeing this in every part of life. The job that once ignored your application suddenly reaches out. The friend who took you for granted realizes your value. Even your mind starts working clearer because it's no longer occupied by people who were never meant to stay. Stopping the chase doesn't mean giving up. It means growing up. It means realizing that real connections can't be forced. They happen naturally, effortlessly, when two people are walking at the same pace. You don't have to run to catch up. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to prove that you deserve love. You simply be, and love finds its way to you. Think about nature. Flowers don't chase bees. They simply bloom, and the bees come. The ocean doesn't chase rivers. It stays where it is, vast and calm, and eventually, every river finds its way home. You don't have to chase what's meant for you. You just have to be ready when it arrives. The truth is, chasing is rooted in fear, the fear of losing, the fear of being alone, the fear that maybe we're not enough. But the moment you stop chasing and start trusting, fear fades and faith begins. You learn to believe that what belongs to you won't pass you by. You learn to see rejection not as punishment, but as protection. And slowly you start noticing the less you force, the more things begin to fall into place. The right people will never need to be chased. They will recognize your energy, respect your presence, and meet you halfway. They will add to your peace, not steal it. They will show up consistently, not conditionally. And they will never make you doubt your worth, because your worth will be the very reason they stay. So stop running behind those who keep walking away. Stop explaining your heart to those who aren't listening. Stop trying to make space in lives that were never built for you. Stand still. Grow. Because when you finally stop chasing, you give life a chance to catch up to you. And that's when everything meant for you finally does. It sounds poetic until you have to live it. Until one day, you wake up and realize there's no one to call, no one to lean on, no one to understand what you're feeling, and that silence hits like a storm. At first, it feels heavy, it feels unfair. You start questioning everything. Why am I alone? Why is life taking everyone away from me? But what you don't realize is that solitude isn't a punishment from life. It's preparation. It's the gym for your soul, where you lift the weight of your own emotions and come out stronger than you ever thought you could be. When you're surrounded by people, you often lean on them. Their words, their presence, their energy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when life removes those supports, it's because it's time for you to stand on your own. Solitude strips away the noise, the distractions, and the opinions of others, until only one voice remains yours. It forces you to meet yourself, maybe for the first time. And that meeting changes everything. Because in solitude, you learn who you really are when no one's watching. You realize how much noise you used to tolerate, how many people you entertained just to avoid your own company. You begin to see your own patterns, how you seek validation, how you avoid pain, how you hide from truth. And the more you sit with yourself, the more you grow. You start understanding that peace doesn't come from being surrounded by people. It comes from being at ease within your own mind. Solitude teaches you self-sufficiency. It teaches you to comfort yourself when no one else can, to motivate yourself when no one believes in you, to heal yourself when no one apologizes. And in that process, you develop something far more powerful than confidence, resilience. You stop waiting for the world to make you feel okay, because you've learned how to do that on your own. It's not easy. There are days when loneliness feels unbearable, when the silence gets too loud, when you miss the chaos of connection. But those are the days when strength is being formed quietly within you, like a seed growing under the soil, unseen. Your soul is taking root. You're learning to depend less on people and more on peace. You're learning that solitude doesn't mean absence. It means alignment. It's not about being isolated from others. It's about being reconnected with yourself. There's a quiet power in people who have mastered solitude. They walk differently. They speak less but say more. They don't chase, they attract. They don't panic when left alone because they know how to find calm in their own company. They don't break easily because their stability comes from within, not from who's around. That's why solitude builds strength. because it shifts the source of your energy from external to internal. Think of the greatest minds, the wisest souls, the most peaceful beings. They all had seasons of solitude. They weren't running from the world, they were preparing to return stronger, clearer, more intentional. They understood that solitude isn't loneliness, it's clarity. It's when you can finally hear the whispers of your intuition, the voice of your purpose, the truth of your heart. And the most beautiful thing happens after you've learned to be strong in solitude. When people come back into your life, you no longer need them to fill you. You want them, but you don't depend on them. You appreciate their presence, but you don't fear their absence. That's real freedom. That's real power. So if you find yourself walking alone, don't curse the path. Embrace it. This is where you're being built. Quietly, patiently, beautifully. The silence you feel now is not emptiness, it's construction. You're building emotional muscle, spiritual maturity, and mental calm. And one day, when life gets loud again, you'll stand in the middle of the noise, unshaken, unbothered, unbreakable. Because solitude doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you strange. It makes you solid, it makes you grounded, it makes you whole. At first, that sentence sounds like something people say to make themselves feel better after being hurt. But when life truly tests you, when you go through heartbreak, betrayal, or quiet distance from people you once trusted completely, that's when you start to understand the truth behind it. Some people come into your life not to stay, but to show you what needs to change within you. And when their time is up, no matter how deeply you try to hold on, life finds a way to remove them. Not to punish you, but to protect you. It's human nature to mourn what leaves. You replay conversations, revisit old memories, and wonder if you could have done something differently. But what if their departure was the very thing that saved you from a lifetime of pain? What if losing them was the reason you finally began to find yourself? Sometimes, what you perceive as loss is actually divine intervention. It's life's way of clearing your path for something or someone better aligned with who you're becoming. Think about it. Not everyone who walks into your life comes with good intentions. Some are meant to teach you discernment, others to remind you of your worth, and a few, the painful ones, to force you to set boundaries you should have set long ago. They show you what betrayal feels like, yes, but in doing so, they teach you the importance of self-respect. They show you what disappointment feels like, but through it, you learn how to stop expecting honesty from those who never valued truth. Every person leaves a lesson, and when the lesson is learned, their role is complete. When you start to see life this way, you stop resenting the ones who left. You start thanking them quietly, because without their absence, you would have never built your presence. You would have never learned to stand tall on your own 2 feet. You would have never realized that peace feels better than constantly explaining yourself to people who were never listening in the first place. You begin to understand that every exit creates space. Space for growth, for healing, for better energy. But when you're too busy clinging to the door that closed, you can't see the one that's opening right behind you. Life doesn't take without giving. It simply rearranges things so you can evolve. Sometimes you lose friends, jobs, relationships, and it feels like everything is collapsing. But later, when you look back, you realize it wasn't destruction, it was redirection. And yes, it hurts. Letting go always does. It's not easy to unlearn attachment, especially when your heart loved sincerely. But what's worse than losing someone is losing yourself trying to keep them. The moment you have to shrink, beg, or betray your peace just to keep someone close, you've already lost something far more precious: your self worth. And once you reclaim that, once you remember who you are, you stop grieving for people who were never meant to stay. You start to see that some people weren't bad, they were